You just time traveled. We're in an America where kids guzzled sodas at the corner drugstore, teens danced in socks on polished gym floors, and housewives proudly showed off nuclear-powered vacuum cleaners. Or so they thought. This isn't just a list, it's a time capsule. 50 things, objects, customs, foods, entire vibes that once defined American life but are now practically forgotten. And you won't believe number 17. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna say, "No way that was real." But it was. And you'll wish it still existed. We're about to pull back the curtain on Forgotten America, 1950s style. Strap in, set your clocks back 70 years. We're jumping into a world of hot rods, fallout shelters, and cheese dreams. Let's start with your bathroom sink. Back in the 50s, it probably had a smiling cartoon beaver staring back at you. That was Bucky Beaver, the mascot for Ipana toothpaste, singing, "Brusha, Brusha, Brusha." Kids loved it. Moms trusted it. And now, practically extinct. You'd also find tin ice cube trays with that metal lever you had to crack sideways like you were trying to open a bank vault. Satisfying clunk, but totally useless if your hand slipped. Frostbite City. In the laundry room, wringer washing machines, giant tubs with hand-cranked rollers to squeeze the water out of clothes. It was either your laundry or your arm getting stuck in that thing. No middle ground. And how about the TV antennas, known as rabbit ears? You didn't just watch TV, you had to earn it. A twist here, a yank there, wrap it in foil, maybe sacrifice a goat. Then boom, 3 channels of fuzzy black and white glory. Let's not forget the ashtrays. Everywhere. Giant ones, standing ones, glass ones with gold flecks. You weren't classy unless your coffee table had one, even if no one in the house smoked. And if you wanted to make a call, no cell phones, not even cordless. Just a rotary phone. That heavy, coiled cord beast you had to dial like you were unlocking a safe. God help you if someone's number had too many nines. Even milk bottles had their moment, delivered to your front step, ice cold, sealed with a little paper cap. And if it froze, the cream would pop the lid right off. That was the 1950s version of a surprise toy in your cereal box. These weren't just products. They were part of the rhythm of daily life. They squeaked, buzzed, rattled, and clanked. But they worked. And today, most people under 30 couldn't name a single one. Up next, get ready to be very hungry. We're diving into the forgotten foods of the 1950s, including one snack that might make you rethink your midnight cravings. Welcome to dinner, 1950s style, where gelatin reigned supreme and every dish looked like it came from a science experiment. Let's start with cheese dreams. These little bite-sized toasts, smothered in melted cheddar and broiled until bubbly, were the go-to snack at house parties and teen gatherings. Want to level it up? Throw a slice of canned pineapple or Spam on top. It sounds cursed now, but back then, that was fancy. Then there was the infamous Jell-O salad. No, not the sweet kind. We're talking lime gelatin loaded with shredded carrots, celery, olives, and occasionally tuna. Yep, seafood Jell-O. It was cold, wiggly, and somehow always made it to the church potluck. Need a drink to wash that down? Try a tomato aspic, a chilled tomato gelatin salad served in delicate molds. Imagine a Bloody Mary, without the booze, and 100 times the confusion. But let's not be too hard on the 50s. They gave us TV dinners too. Little foil trays sectioned off like edible blueprints, with turkey, mashed potatoes, peas, and a brownie. Just pop it in the oven, wait 45 minutes, and boom, dinner and gunsmoke at the same time. And for dessert, baked Alaska, a showstopper of sponge cake, ice cream, and browned meringue. It wasn't just dessert, it was a statement. That or a banana flip. Basically a Twinkie with a banana cream middle that tasted like childhood and sugar. Even soda fountains were different. The corner drugstore had a real counter with a soda jerk who'd whip up a cherry phosphate or a malted milkshake, shaken, not blended, and it came with the rest of the metal mixing cup on the side. These dishes weren't just food. They were culture, ritual. They brought people together around weird combinations and wild flavors. Today, most have disappeared from menus, and probably for good reason. But next, we're cranking up the jukebox, because teen life in the 1950s, that was a whole different world, and it had rhythm. If you were a teen in the 1950s, your life revolved around three things: music, rebellion, and the gym floor. Let's talk about sock hops. These were school dances where everyone literally took off their shoes to protect the gym floor. That's right, dozens of teenagers jitterbugging in their socks to Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly, with a chaperone lurking in every corner, pretending not to see what they definitely saw. And the fashion? Boys in Letterman jackets with slicked-back pompadours, girls in poodle skirts and saddle shoes, flipping their ponytails like it was a full-time job, and everyone wore too much hair gel, like industrial amounts. But the heartbeat of it all was rock and roll. Elvis Presley hit the scene like a cultural meteor. Suddenly, parents were terrified of hip-shaking and suggestive lyrics, which by today's standards are basically nursery rhymes. But back then, Elvis was dangerous, and that made him even cooler. Now imagine pulling into a drive-in theater with your date, top down, soda in hand, horror flick on the screen, and no real interest in the movie. Drive-ins weren't about film, they were about freedom. You could hang out, flirt, smoke, or just blast the radio while pretending to care about the plot of The Blob. And believe it or not, there were even drive-in churches. Yep. Pull up, sit in your car, and listen to the sermon through a speaker box on your window. It was like spiritual fast food. Pull in, pray, drive away. You also had teen hangouts like malt shops, part diner, part social club. Jukebox in the corner, booths filled with laughter, and a soda jerk who knew everyone by name. If you wanted to be seen, you showed up there, even if you didn't have money for a milkshake. Teenagers in the 50s didn't have Instagram or TikTok, but they absolutely knew how to go viral, with a car, a record, and a place to be. Coming up, let's step outside into the American dream. Picket fences, two-car garages, and the explosive rise of car culture. Things are about to get fast. If the 1950s had a soundtrack, it was the roar of a V8 engine and the click of a garage door opening in suburbia, post-World War II. America was car-obsessed, and for good reason. Suddenly, everyone wanted their own slice of the dream, a tail-finned, chrome-plated ride, a ranch-style home, and a driveway to park it all in. Let's start with the cars. The '57 Chevy Bel Air, with its rocket-inspired fins and two-tone paint, wasn't just transportation. It was a statement. Teenagers would soup up their cars with mag wheels, flame paint jobs, and pinstriping done by hand in their buddy's garage. Hot rods were more than vehicles, they were identity. Gas was cheap, roads were wide, and then came the interstate highway system, which opened up the country like never before. Suddenly, you could live outside the city. In places like Levittown, the first true suburb, where houses looked the same, lawns were manicured, and neighbors actually borrowed sugar. In these brand new neighborhoods, garage doors were a symbol of arrival. You were middle class, you had a car, you had made it. And with car culture came new inventions, drive-in diners with roller skating waitresses delivering burgers to your window, drive-in banks, drive-in pharmacies, even drive-in weddings in Vegas. But the crown jewel, the drive-in theater. Families piled into station wagons with lawn chairs and blankets. Teens snuck friends in the trunk. The audio came through tinny window speakers, and half the crowd wasn't watching the screen. They were people watching each other. Even shopping evolved. The rise of strip malls and the very first indoor shopping malls meant people no longer needed to go downtown. Instead, they had modern convenience in sprawling parking lots, just minutes from home. Suburbia and car culture were the twin engines of 1950s life. Everything was built around the idea that if you had a car, you had freedom. And yet, while Americans were speeding ahead, they were also staring at the sky, fearing the end of the world. Yep, we're heading into the atomic age next. And trust me, it gets weird. Imagine sipping a martini while watching a nuclear bomb go off in the desert. Sounds like science fiction, right? Not in 1950s America. Welcome to the atomic age, when nuclear energy was both terrifying and super trendy. After World War II, Americans didn't just fear atomic power, they embraced it. There were dawn bomb parties in Las Vegas, where tourists would book hotel rooms with direct views of test detonations from the Nevada desert. Hotels served atomic cocktails, handed out Fallout fashion brochures, and people cheered mushroom clouds like fireworks. This era gave us wild inventions like the Ford Nucleon, a concept car powered by a mini nuclear reactor. Never built, but totally marketed. Even comic books joined the craze. Heroes got their powers from radiation, and The Atomic Kid became a cult film classic. At home, things were no less bizarre. Families practiced duck and cover drills, where kids were told to hide under desks, because apparently a wooden chair could protect you from a nuclear fireball. Government films told people to keep calm and cover your skin with a newspaper in case of fallout. Spoiler, that wouldn't help. Then there were the fallout shelters, built into suburban backyards, fully stocked with canned goods, cots, and radios. Some even had radiation-proof wallpaper, which wasn't real, by the way. TVS, magazines, even furniture was marketed as atomic-inspired. Sharp lines, starburst clocks, pastel kitchens, all part of the future look that was low-key prepping for the end times. There was this surreal mix of excitement and dread. Nuclear power was going to cook your food, fuel your car, light your house, and maybe end civilization. The atomic age turned fear into fashion, and while most of it faded into the pages of history, a few remnants, like retro-futuristic design and sci-fi flicks, still influence pop culture today. Speaking of pop culture, let's step inside the living room. Coming up next, the strange, forgotten world of 1950s entertainment and media, and one cartoon that might just be the worst ever made. Before Netflix, before YouTube, and way before binge-watching, there was television in the 1950s, and it was weird. Let's start with The Adventures of Paddy the Pelican, possibly the worst cartoon ever aired. The animation, scribbled, the voices, all done by one guy in one take with zero effort. It aired in Chicago for about 5 minutes before vanishing into obscurity, but that's just the tip of the black and white iceberg. TVS themselves were furniture, big wooden cabinets with tiny screens. Families would crowd around the 12-inch glow for shows like The Lone Ranger, Leave It to Beaver, and Howdy Doody. And if your favorite program was on, you planned your whole night around it. No DVR, no replays, miss it, and it's gone forever. Then there were the commercials. Oh man, the commercials. Cartoon mascots pitched everything: Bucky Beaver for toothpaste, Speedy Alka-Seltzer dancing on tables, even a singing cigarette cartoon saying, "More doctors smoke Camels than any other brand." Yes, really. Children's programming was a fever dream. Clutch Cargo had real human mouths superimposed on cartoon faces, Nightmare Fuel, and shows like Captain Kangaroo and Romper Room made Mr. Rogers look like an action movie. Beyond TV, there was radio drama, slowly dying out, but still kicking with spooky thrillers and crime stories. Then came the rise of sci-fi B-movies, cheap, dramatic, and obsessed with aliens and radiation. Titles like It came from outer space or Attack of the 50-Foot Woman-filled theaters. Were they good? Not really. Were they unforgettable? Definitely. And let's not forget the comic books. Before Marvel ruled the world, kids devoured horror, romance, and war comics with covers so intense they sparked government hearings. Parents freaked out, thought comics were corrupting youth, and boom! The Comics Code Authority was born, sanitizing everything with a stamp of approval. The 1950s were pure media chaos, part innocence, part madness, and a whole lot of charm. But even outside the screen, Americans were being sold a lifestyle, one jingle, one smiling mascot at a time. Let's head into the world of advertising next, where everything had a slogan and everyone was buying. If you lived in the 1950s America, you were constantly being sold something, and it probably had a jingle, a smiling mascot, or a doctor saying it was good for you. Let's start with the characters. Bucky Beaver for Ipana toothpaste, who literally sang his way into millions of bathrooms. Speedy for Alka-Seltzer, bouncing and singing plop plop fizz fizz. And yes, even cartoon characters for cigarettes like the Marlboro Man and Joe Camel. Advertisements back then didn't whisper, they shouted. Billboards, newspapers, magazines, TV, every single one promised a better life if you just bought the right soap, the right car, the right kitchen appliance. And get this, in the 50s, ads claimed smoking was healthy. More doctors smoked Camels than any other cigarette. That was a real ad, with fake science and real consequences. Magazines like Look and Life published sprawling photo essays, not just to inform, but to sell lifestyles. A family sitting down to dinner in a modern kitchen wasn't just a picture, it was an ad for America. And jingles? They ran your brain. Try hearing "See the USA" in your Chevrolet once and not humming it the rest of the day. Advertising in the 1950s wasn't subtle. It was an all-out sensory takeover, and Americans loved every second of it. But behind all the smiling faces and spotless kitchens, there were lessons, big ones. Coming up, what the 1950s can teach us right now about how to live. For all the quirks, weird gadgets, and atomic cocktails, the 1950s actually left behind a few powerful lessons. First, people moved more. No smartphones, no streaming, no doom scrolling, just daily routines that involved standing, walking, and being outside. Kids rode bikes, played stickball, climbed trees, not because it was trendy, but because it was normal. Second, home-cooked meals were the default. Portion sizes were smaller, ingredients simpler, and food wasn't pumped full of preservatives or eaten from a dashboard. Third, disconnection was healthy. When the TV turned off, so did the noise. There were no texts, no emails, no FOMO. People talked around dinner tables, on porches, at the bowling alley. Sure, it wasn't perfect. Far from it, but buried under the atomic kitsch and chrome, the 1950s showed us something we often forget. Simple isn't bad. In fact, it might be the thing we need most today. 50 forgotten things, 50 glimpses into a world that feels both distant and weirdly familiar. From cheese dreams to mushroom clouds, sock hops to fallout shelters, the 1950s were a strange, stylish, and unforgettable decade. A time when everything was new, atomic, or the future, even if it only lasted a few years. But here's the thing, the more we remember, the less we lose. And maybe, just maybe, there's something worth bringing back. So if you love this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still remembers rotary phones.